Oh, Sophie, I'm so happy to spend this time with you today to chat all things natural beauty, skincare, and Ayurveda. Thank you so much for making time to be with us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Katie.
It's always lovely to chat with you. I'd love to hear, just for the listeners who aren't familiar with you and your work, just a little bit about your background, the work that you're doing now, and kind of how you got into it all, really.
So I'm what will I call myself? I'm an Ayurvedic health advisor, but I would also say an Ayurvedic skincare advisor. So I'm trained in holistic facial therapies, and I guess the work that I do is really aimed at empowering women to take beauty back into their own hands and to care for their skin and their beauty in a holistic way, so they can feel empowered to age with grace. And the way I got into this really was through my own experience. So about a year after my first child was born, I was quite postnatally depleted, I realized now. And it was really showing up in my appearance and my skin, and lots of new wrinkles, and just not feeling very vibrant and vital. And so this led me to train in face yoga and face massage, and then when my health deteriorated, this led me to Ayurveda to deal with some digestive issues that were going on. And that was sort of the missing piece for me. It was like, oh, of course we can do all of these things from the outside. We can do all this face massage and beautiful lotions, but really the foundation of natural beauty is that inner equilibrium, good digestion, a balance of the elements that make up our body. So, and then I sort of just put all that together, and that's how Ayurveda was born.
Yeah, so beautiful. And I love the work that you do, because like me, you have a focus that's so much on what's practical and what's manageable in amongst everything else that's going on in our lives. Like, you have a young child, and very much, sometimes Ayurveda asks of us, I think, a whole list of protocols that may not be manageable in our busy modern lives. And I'm always so interested in how can I take the teachings and how can I adapt them and still, honor them and honor the authenticity, but also honor the fact that I'm time poor and don't necessarily always have the conditions in which to live a beautiful, perfect kind of Ayurvedic, Vedic life. So how do you find that balance between the busyness of the modern world and life and motherhood versus the protocols that Ayurveda would love us to kind of be spending our time immersed in?
I mean, it's an ongoing journey, finding that balance. For me, it's always going back to doing less, I think, and looking at, when I'm trying to do too much and trying to be too perfect. For me, I think that balance comes from really being clear on my priorities and doing less, rather than feeling that I have to always be doing more. And with that often comes, I get a lot more from that, I feel, sometimes, than if I was to be doing a whole lot more, because it's obviously more supportive to my nervous system. Yeah.
Doing less is such a beautiful mantra for, I think, motherhood in general, to be honest. It's so funny. Just before we had our conversation, I was just having a little quick scroll on Instagram, as you do. And this doctor came up on my feed, and he was talking about Botox. And he was basically describing that Botox essentially is, you're putting a virus, you're putting chemicals into your body that kind of create paralysis, but also mimic disease in the body. And then your body has to go into essentially a detoxification process to try to eliminate that foreign entity that it's kind of dealing with. So it sort of struck me in that moment, and I'm not pretending that I know much about the science at all, but it struck me in that moment that there's such a world of difference between nourishment and actually kind of encouraging our bodies to be able to, exactly what you just said, deal with aging gracefully, versus lots of chemicals or lots of sort of alien, foreign even, you know, whether it's Botox or just some skincare ranges that actually ask our bodies to work harder in the long run. Like they're asking us to kind of detoxify, and they're adding to the chemical load. I don't know why I hadn't quite made that connection before, but it just kind of dropped in today. So I wonder if you can speak about the role of sort of detoxification and how that works in Ayurveda, and what that might look like for our skin.
Well, the skin is one of the ways that the body detoxifies. It's an organ for elimination. So I guess the role of having a strong Agni, so having, you know, good digestion, so that we're properly digesting our food. We're avoiding getting the accumulation of the metabolic toxins that can come from when we're not properly digesting our food, and keeping all of the elimination channels clear. Including, you know, elimination, because what can happen is when these other channels are blocked, or we have an accumulation of this is when, instead of nutrients being extracted from the foods we eat and being delivered to nourish the body tissues, we have metabolic toxins making their way to the tissues. And this is when, you know, it can start to be expressed through, you know, acne, you know, things like rosacea, eczema. This can all be a result of the accumulation of those metabolic toxins. So from the Ayurvedic perspective, you know, really everything's going back to Agni and having a good digestion, you know, and living in a way that really supports the good digestion, not just of the food that we eat, but just of life in general. And that's what Agni really supports us.
So what are some of the ways, for those people who aren't, like listeners who aren't that familiar with Ayurveda, what are some of the simple ways that we can start to support that process of elimination and detoxification and building up Agni in the body?
So some of the basic ones, and that's what I love about this, like a lot of it's going back, it's really not, like it's quite simple. Things like chewing our food. Just chewing our food properly. And I know before I came to Ayurveda, I wasn't chewing my food properly. I had to really work at retraining myself to sit there and actually chew my food until it was mush, because it's in this habit of eating in a rush, you know, being a mum, all these things. But when we don't actually chew our food till it's mush and we're swallowing whole food, partially whole food, then this is when we start to create that metabolic toxin. So just being present with our meals and really approaching, I guess, meal times as this opportunity to nourish our bodies, and that's the objective of eating in Ayurveda, is to nourish and sustain. So being present with our food, chewing our food properly, engaging all five senses, you know, not eating with distractions, so eating away from phones, or even listening to podcasts or reading. Just being present with our food is a really beautiful place to start.
Yeah, I'm often nagging my partner to sit down to eat, because I often catch him in the kitchen, like making a sandwich or something like that, and eating standing up, and it drives me crazy. So I'm like, at least if you've made the food, at least sit down for a moment to enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's a reprogramming for many of us. I used to be cooking and snacking while I was cooking, and not realizing that this was actually really impacting on my digestion, instead of allowing the food to cook and sitting down and actually eating it consciously. Just makes such a big difference, I've found.
There's such a beautiful tradition in the Hare Krishna teachings, which I don't always follow, I must admit, but the Srila Prabhupada, who taught many of the disciples, that the original Hare Krishna disciples, to cook, he used to say, you don't even taste the food as you're cooking, like even, you know, with the salt or the spices or the additions, because the first taste of the food should go to God. So you make the food and then you create a little offering, and you know, give it to the altar, and you hand it over to Krishna essentially, and then you eat, which makes me quite nervous, because I like to taste as I'm going, to make sure that, you know, there's enough salt or not too much, that kind of thing. But I guess that's really in line with the teachings of Ayurveda when I think about it, because we're not getting the agni going in a false start with that sort of drip
Yeah.
feed of snacking. Like we're actually just giving it a beautiful break and then eating a meal and then rest and then eat, rather than snack throughout the day, which seems to be quite hard on the body in terms of digestion and processing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, allowing that space for rest and digest.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And in terms of what we should be eating, like particularly I'm thinking about for kind of glowy skin health, like what are some of your recommendations for really beautiful nourishing foods for skin health?
I mean, there's no one size fits all. That's the beautiful thing about Ayurveda, that it doesn't, we can really adapt the principles to any kind of diet. But really it's going back to, again, the simplicity of just eating real food, eating food that's in season, because nature grows food to support us in the different climates, to sort of harmonize with the elements that make up our bodies. So, eating cleanly grown food wherever possible, obviously minimizing that toxic load, seasonal, fresh, real food is, again, a good place to start. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I'd love to hear like a little bit of a sticky beak into your life. What's your skincare regime? What does it look like? Like, what do you do for your skin?
So I do face massage every morning. It's kind of part of my morning dinacharya, is I do about 10 minutes face massage, just facial relaxation. And then just the usual, I cleanse at the moment. I'm actually using a really beautiful Ayurvedic brand at the moment called Aika, Aika, which I'm really enjoying. So I'm using their products at the moment for the cleanse and the moisturizer. And what else do? I do a mask. I do at least probably a weekly mask. I exfoliate maybe every 2 weeks because I have quite sensitive skin. Yeah, and then just the usual, obviously I practice good sun safety, and I really look to care for my skin from within. That's really the sort of, again, I do care for it from the outside inwards, using obviously always natural products, avoiding the creams and the kind of foaming cleansers. Like everything's very oil based, but then really, looking to sort of eat that good balanced diet. And one of the biggest things that I do for my skincare, I'll probably say, is like yoga nidra daily is probably the greatest thing I can do for my skin. And I really notice a difference when I fall out of that pattern of having that daily relaxation. It'll really start to show in my skin. So that's a big one for me, the relaxation. Again, especially as mamas, where I notice symptoms are always a bit sort of
I feel exactly the same way. I know it's like I really try still when my daughter's at home and she has a daytime nap to nap with her, and I notice not just my skin but my whole kind of radiance is completely different if I have a rest in the middle of the day. It really, for me personally, makes a huge difference to my kind of energy level and just glow, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You just mentioned oil-based products, and I use a lot of oil in my skincare, but when I was younger, I was very prone to acne, and it took me quite a long time to come around to the idea that oil wasn't going to give me breakouts in my skin. So what would you say to someone who's nervous about using a lot of oily products, which Ayurveda definitely recommends, who's got more like skin that's more prone to being greasy or being oily or blackheads or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, something like jojoba oil is often quite nice for people that have oilier skin because it's the closest oil to our skin sebum. So it can be nice for people that are more prone. And then, like it is, if someone's got very oily skin, it might be applying a little bit less oil. But yeah, that's the thing. Our skin still needs that oil. It still needs moisturizing, and really to clear up things like acne, we want to be looking at, and again, going back to Agni, the digestion, which is going to, which has that direct link to hormones and all different things that can cause the problem of acne. But again, it's sort of going back to the simplicity of this approach, is that it's really just staying as close to nature as possible, you know, and thinking our skin produces oil. So it makes sense that there's that kind of resonance with oil, as opposed to a synthetic ingredient that, you know, has no resonance with the skin. So it's really about starting to sort of see ourselves as an extension of nature and making choices that really support that, you know, support our bodies as an extension of nature.
And
Yeah.
do you make your own skincare products? Like, do you have, I mean, you were talking about some of the beautiful products you were using just before, but do you have some nice, simple recipe suggestions or make at home suggestions that people might be able to use and do?
I love my favorite ones. I use quite simple oils. But it's good to get an oil that's suited to your skin type. You know, so that's kind of the key with all of this, that there is no one size fits all. The idea is that we really want to select products that are suitable for our skin type. Things like, for like a really gentle exfoliator, I like to use oats, so like ground up oats, so they're like a really nice soft kind of floury consistency, and then with a bit of honey, and just mix that up and just use it as an exfoliator, and that can feel really nourishing, and it's gentle. So that's one of my favorite exfoliators. Or the good old chickpea flour and a pinch of turmeric is another really nice exfoliator that I quite like as well when my skin starts to feel a bit dull. That one always gives it a nice sort of, yeah, just brings back that radiance, gives it a nice boost. But that you need to make sure you don't use too much turmeric, or the skin will go orange. So don't make that mistake. Yeah.
And not very effective home tanning option.
No. I've done it before. It's just sort of like this yellow left in your hairline or something.
Yeah.
So
No, we definitely don't want that. I'd love to hear a bit more about Ayurvedic skin types. Like, obviously in conventional skincare, we've got the kind of like oily or dry or combination, that type of thing. But how does Ayurveda classify different skin types?
Yeah, so we've got, like, you know, just some of the sort of like Vata. So Vata type skin is generally going to be sort of thinner type skin. It's going to be more prone to dryness, fine lines, or like dehydration lines. Vata skin normally is the type of skin that will tan quite easily, so sort of darker skins. But yeah, it's usually that sort of thinner. Normally you can see the veins quite easily through a Vata type skin. And then there's the Pitta. The Pitta type skin is more of the kind of fair, often, you know, can be freckly, sensitive to the sun, more prone to sort of redness, inflammation. That's kind of more of a Pitta type skin. And then you've got the Kapha type skin, which is often a lot thicker. Can be prone to more congestion. Kapha type skin tends to age like quite well because there's that thickness. There's more thickness there. So and it can be oily. So they're sort of the different skin types, but it's also important to remember that we have all three in us. So someone can have a combination, you know, of Vata Pitta skin, or someone can be purely, you know, you can sort of go predominantly Vata skin. Yeah.
And which oil recommendations would you make for each one of those skin types? What would be your, I mean, obviously I know it depends on the individual, but sort of overarching suggestions for each of those.
So Vata being the sort of dry and the cold, you're wanting to bring in the opposite qualities. So you want like warming, nourishing, kind of hydrating oils. So often things for Vata could include things like sesame oil, can be a nice choice for Vata. But always making sure it's, you know, when we're talking about oils, it's the cold pressed oils. We're not going for toasted or anything like that. It's cold pressed, ideally organic, you know, good quality oils. So sesame or black sesame can be nice for Vata. Pitta being the heat, like Pitta the fire. So there's that tendency towards inflammation, sensitivity. Pitta can do well on coconut oil because it's a very cooling oil. But that's provided that the weather isn't freezing cold, because if the weather's freezing cold, then coconut oil can be slightly too cold. in which case, you know, a tridoshic oil, something like jojoba oil could be a nice choice because it's just a bit more generalized. And then kapha, so kapha kind of is that, you know, the more prone to stagnation. There's that sort of heaviness, the earth and water element brings in that sort of heaviness. So you're wanting more of like, and it's cold as well. So we're wanting more of the warming, the stimulating type oils. So kapha type oils could be again something like the sesame oils, the black sesame oils, and then things like mustard seed oil as well could be. But mustard seed oil, I would always mix half.
Pretty strong, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite strong. So it might, and it's because it's very warming. So that's where you've got to be sort of just, you know, aware of that. If someone's got kapha pitta skin and you bring in the mustard, then it's going to bring up that pitta. So it's always that nice dance between really just understanding what your skin is communicating. And if in doubt, then there's lovely tridoshic oils such as the jojoba, which are generally suited to all three. Yeah,
I like jojoba because it really absorbs into the skin well, so you're not left with too much of a film. Like for me anyway, I find it very much I don't know, it just sinks into my skin in a different way and it feels lovely. It doesn't feel too oily all day long.
Yeah, I love jojoba. I think it's a beautiful oil, and it is,
yeah,
it's lovely for skincare. Olive oil is another one that's quite nice. That can be is generally quite good for all three. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And just in finishing up, but one question I've been asking several of the presenters in the summit, and I'd love to ask you, and this may or may not have anything to do with Ayurveda or skincare, is, you know, what's really lighting you up at the moment? What are you studying? What are you reading about? What are you interested in? What kind of rabbit holes are you in right now in your own personal studies and interest?
In my own personal studies and interest at the moment, to be honest, at the moment, it's my toddler. My toddler's what lights me up. It's kind of all I have space for at the moment. My toddler and my work where I'm at. And I mean, always Ayurveda. It's such an ongoing, beautiful life journey of discovering more. And I'm currently still mentoring with my mentor and checking in with her. And that's kind of my continuous study at the moment.
Beautiful. Do you have an idea of your toddler's kind of dominant dosha? Is that very obvious to you?
Yeah, I think it's probably a Vata Pitta. Very busy. So that's, yeah, he's kind of my world at the moment. Which is precious.
I always say kapha. I mean, this is a massive generalization, but having had 5 children, I can definitely say something about this. Kapha babies are by far the easiest. Like, they're just super chill and easy babies, but kapha teenagers are hard work. So,
oh, really?
Well, just because all they want to do is kind of, I mean, all they want to do, but they're definitely the ones that are hard to get up and get motivated. You know, like I had one of my children is very kapha, and he was the easiest baby. He was such a dream. He just slept all the time, very content, very just chill and easy compared to my Pitta and Vata babies. But now he's a teenager. I don't know. It's a little bit more like difficult to motivate him sometimes. Let's say that.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit too chill.
Yeah, totally. I could see that. Yeah, for sure. The different phases, for sure. Yeah. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I genuinely was like, there's not a lot of space for,
when you're in toddler land, I totally get that. That's exactly how it is. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge with us today. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I want to encourage everyone who's listening to follow you on Instagram, and of course we'll pop the links to that and for your website and everything in the notes. But I particularly guide listeners towards your Instagram because I think you share a lot of really useful knowledge on that platform. It's common to see people just kind of sharing I don't know, just giving information about what they're doing and that kind of thing, but I find your Instagram feed very educational, and I really enjoy that. So thank you for that work that you do.
Oh, thank you, Katie. I feel the same way about you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.